Developing AI solutions doesn't have to be complicated, expensive, or locked behind the API keys. In this video, I will show you how to build end-to-end AI chatbot using real large language model running locally in your machine. In the video, I will guide you how to install, download the necessary libraries and modules along with the models to download and install locally. Then from importing necessary libraries and modules, setting up the page and setting up the entire sidebar for the setting and control of the application, and also storing and managing the history of the conversation and letting the users to put the questions and generate the response accordingly, alongside debugging if there is any issues or concern while generating the response, and then letting the users to clear the chat history, chat screen, and build the another chat session. Alongside here, I will also show a couple of example application use case. This is the web interface that we are going to build at the end of our tutorial. So this is the how chatbot looks like. You got setting control, you have the instructions, basic instruction here, alongside the chat interface that you can ask question and get the response from the chatbot. Let's straight dive into this. Let's make the complex problem simple. In this video, we will begin with installing Ollama locally in our machine. To do that, I will simply search Ollama install, and then I will click on the official website, which is ollama.com/download. I'll click on that and this page will open. Make sure that you are downloading from official source to avoid any sort of wrong application installation on your machine. Here there are two ways. You can directly download on your computer. Sometimes it may cause the application not to be added into the path variable. So to avoid that, what I will do here is I will take this path, I'll copy that, and I will go to my VS Code. In my VS Code, what I would do is open the terminal, and I will make sure that I am into the project folder. So you don't have to be necessarily in the project folder, but it's always good practice to have that. And simply, I will paste the link here and I will hit enter. So as soon as I hit enter, you see something different here because I have already existing installation. So it is removing existing installation and it is reinstalling for me. But for you, it may simply say installing, and it will download all the bunch of files for you for that installation. And this is pretty big application, so it will go about several megabytes to gigabyte, close to gigabyte, to run it locally because it is already pre-trained model. Now we will check if Ollama is successfully installed or not. To do that, you have to say which Ollama, and if you hit enter, it will show you if the Ollama is installed or not. If not, then it will show some sort of like Ollama does not exist or is not available in the path. So now for me, it shows that Ollama is already installed. Now I'm ready to get or download a large language model from Ollama. So to do that, I will simply say Ollama pull and give any model name. You can do Mistral, you can do Llama 3.18b or Phi3, whichever you choose. So for now, I will choose Llama 3.1 and I will go 8b for that. And I will hit enter. So the model is being pulled. Since it is already installed in my machine, it will just show that everything is completed, and here is success message for me that Ollama model has been already imported into my machine or downloaded in my machine. Now, the next step is going to be make sure that you have your virtual environment activated, installed, and activated. If you do not know how to do that, I have a dedicated video on installing virtual environment in your local machine for the project specific. So please do not forget to check that. And I have already activated my virtual environment, and now I'm ready to take action on building application step by step. I'll begin with importing the necessary libraries and modules. Simply, I have two applications to import. One is import Streamlit, as ST, since Streamlit is the web framework that helps me to create the web application. Next thing is I'm gonna import is Ollama. So that's gonna be my large language model framework that will help me to import the Mistral or Phi3 or Llama model. So these are two imports we have to do. Next thing is going to be setting up the page configuration. To do that, I will simply say st, that is alias for Streamlit, and I will say set page config, and I will give the page title, and that's going to be, let's say, local AI chatbot with no API key. So that's basic the feature of this application I'm going to use today. And you can add page simple icons if you like to. Otherwise, simply you can say how you want the layout to be. I will call layout to be simply centered. So my page will be centered so that it is easy. It's not cut off on the left or right, etc. Then immediate next thing I would do is set up the title. So set up the title. And how you do that is st.title, and I will just type out whatever title I want it to be. I will say local AI chatbot, and simply same way, no API key. So that's my title for the Streamlit application. And just underneath the Streamlit application, I want small text to be written. And to do that, I will simply say st.caption, caption under the title. I will write down runs on your laptop using Ollama models, right? Ollama models, and you can download more than one model. Here in the same way I have done Llama 3.1 8 billion parameter model. You can choose Phi3, you can choose Mistral. It's up to us, or we can use multiple models altogether. Next thing is going to be setting up the view or maybe control in the application. I would say sidebar controls to keep the model simple for the beginner level. And I will simply say with st.sidebar, and I will give semicolon there. I will add a header saying settings or change the settings, something like that. So I will simply say application setting. That will help us to understand, hey, this is where we need to change the setting. And then I will simply give sort of drop down to choose multiple models. I will say simply drop down of model options. So in that drop down, before even designing the drop down, I want to make sure that you have installed all of those models or pulled all of those models you need from the Ollama. So not to forget that, I will simply say Ollama pull Phi3. That's another mini or small version of model I'm going to pull. And in my terminal here, I will hit enter. Since it is already installed, it will just quickly go through. For you, it may take some time. If you prefer to just have one application, don't worry about the drop down. You can just type it, but you can leave it as it is. It's gonna just work fine. And another model I want to do is Ollama pull Mistral. So these are three models I'm going to use for this tutorial, and make sure that these models are about 4 gigabyte bigger. One is Phi3 mini is about 2 gigabyte, but Mistral and Llama 3.1 8B are about 4 gigabyte big. So all of these three models are already pulled into my computer. Now they can be recognized as soon as I start running the application. So I will then go ahead and say model name equals, then I will say select box. From Streamlit, I'm choosing the function called select box. And Streamlit is really powerful. So it lets you design the web application in the way that you want to choose. You want to add functionality or interactivity. So here, choose a model. So I'm just asking the user to choose the model. And what are the options that I want to choose from? Is option 1 that I have imported was Phi3, and that is mini model. And the second model I want to choose here is Llama 3.1 8 billion parameter model. And the next model I want to choose here that I have installed is Mistral model. And at the drop down, you can change the model that you want to choose based on your preference. And I would say index equals 0. That means it's going to be showing up at the very far left side of the application. The next section I want to set up, and that is one of the most important hyperparameter of any large language model that you want to generate the text or classify whatever the purpose you have. Temperature is one of the most important hyperparameter that you or parameter that you want to adjust. So temperature goes from the range of 0 through 1. 1 means you are letting the application to be most creative while generating the response, and the 0 means you are asking the model to generate very specific answer. So in this, I would simply add the creativity, or the in the bracket I will say temperature, and I will choose what is the minimum value of temperature. That of course I want to give a 0.0 or 0, and the maximum value 1.0. And what is the default? If nothing was selected by the user, as a default value I will give 0.3, little bit of creative application. And what are the steps when the user is changing? And here I'm giving these options to change by 0.1 and make it 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, etc. Whatever user wants to choose the temperature from. Same way, I want to choose the maximum number of tokens that users want to use while generating the output. Same way, st.slider, and I will call max tokens here, and then I will say response length, and I will give 64, that is minimum value, and up to 1024 tokens, that is maximum. And I want to put a default value to be 256 if the user has not chosen any, in the addition or reduction of 64 tokens on each slide. That's the two parameters that I'm selecting for the large language model. And then I will simply say another markdown here, just to add some separator line. So I will add 3 lines there. That would add a line separator. And I want to say st.subheader in the settings. So I want to just alert the user saying that, hey, select the model first, or pull the model first in your terminal. So I will say important, that is very important that you pull the model first in your terminal if you have not already, something like that, so that users know that they need to pull the model, have the model ready if they have not already. Next, I want to write the code format having Ollama pull, and then here they will be able to pull the model name, as we have selected different models here with 3 different options. As soon as they call it, they will be able to pull the model, and I will say language equals bash, because if you remember, in the terminal we had used bash in order to run the command functions. I'm going to write, if you want to pull all models from your tutorial, that the 3 models that we have pulled for this tutorial, and we will give option to choose from these models. I will say st.code, and I will write it down, the text into the code format. I will say Ollama pull Phi3, and I want to give mini. Then in the new line, I want to give option for Ollama pull, I will say Llama 3.1 8 billion parameter model, and I will give the new line there. Once that is done, I will say new line, and the next one is going to be Ollama pull, I will say Mistral there. So these 3 models we have pulled while beginning, at the very beginning of the tutorial. And I will say language equals again bash language or bash scripting. So these are the models that you will be pulling for this specific application. Now, so here, so far, we have created the application until pulling the large language model. If you have not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do subscribe and please hit that like button for this video so that this video can reach to the maximum people and they will be able to learn how to build large language model or AI chatbot without having to use any API key, and so easy to set up. Next, I will simply add breakdown. So I will say simply st.markdown, and I will add a line to break the section. And I will again say st.write quick test in terminal. So I will be checking in the terminal what are the different list of models that I have that have been pulled. So I will simply say quick test in terminal. st.code, write the code for terminal. I'll say Ollama list, and that will give me the list of all the Ollama models. And I will again say language equals bash. So that being said, we have set up and confirmed all the model that we have loaded, we have pulled for this application. Now the next thing is going to be storing the chat history, in Streamlit session so that it remembers the last conversation. And I can also say persists across reruns in the same Streamlit run session. If messages not in st.session state, st.session_state.messages, I'll give the role to the LLM. So I'll say role equals system. So I will give the system prompt here, and I will say content equals, content is going to be instruction to the large language model saying that you are helpful AI assistant to answer many different questions accurately and precisely. So that's what I would write as the system prompt. Nothing super complicated. We are just giving some instructions to large language model to give you the response when the question is asked by the user. So next is I would like to write a message that skips the system message or does not display the system instructions. So I will simply say display chat history while skipping the system message, or system, we can say, or system instructions. So let's do that. I will simply write for MSG for each message in the st.session_state.messages. I will say if the role is system, so if it is a system as a role, then I will simply say continue. I'm skipping and going to the next step or next role. I will say with st.chat message, and I will say MSG and role the next, which is going to be either user role or assistant, one of those. If those are the scenario, then simply I will ask it to write it down the content. So here what exactly we are doing is if the role is system, then we're asking to continue to the next. It is not gonna print the system message, and then next remaining is the user or the user or assistant, and that's what is gonna be the content which is gonna be printed as a markdown message. Now immediate next thing is going to be chat input, right? We want to take the input from the users. So I will say chat input equals user text. I will define user text. We'll say st.chat input, where user will be asked to provide the question. I will simply say, please type your question here, and I will give triple dot here. Once we have the user text or message being received by the user as form of question, next I will define the function to get the response stream. So define the function to get the response from LLM, and I will say def generate response stream, and I'll give the parameter of messages. That's going to be the user's question and which model it is, and what is the temperature that we have set up, and I will choose max tokens. That was also the slider that we have set up earlier. And here I'll give some quick doc string here, and that explains what exactly this function is doing. I will say stream tokens from Ollama model, so, or any other model, different model that we are going to choose. So the UI feels like ChatGPT. I will say stream equals Ollama, and I will say dot chat because that's what the chat, we are chatting with Ollama models. And I will say model equals model, that whatever model the user is going to choose from the drop down. And I will say messages equals messages, again, whatever the message that we receive from the users as form of the question. And I will say stream equals true. We'll stream the tokens from Ollama or any other model. And next we'll do is we'll set the options to be setting of the temperature, right? So first of all, I'll give the temperature, and that's going to be temp, whatever the temperature the users set. And we'll say num predict here, num predict, and we'll give how many tokens that we want the model to predict. And then I will close the curly braces and the parentheses. We have defined the stream here, and I will say for chunk in stream, different chunk of messages in the stream, from the chunk I will yield the message, and from the message I will extract the content. So we are interested on the content of the message that it has yielded from the chunk. Now I will say if user underscore text, if we have a question from the user, I will say st.session state. From Streamlit session state messages, I will then do append role being the user and content being the user text. So I will append into the session state. So once I do that, the next thing I would like to do here is with st.chat message, I will say user, then I will say st.simple text, and I will say user text. So basically here I am printing the question the user has asked. The next thing is going to be generating the response in the stream of AI assistant's response. So I will generate and stream the assistant's response. So to do that with st.chat message, I will say assistant. So that's going to be the assistant's response. I will simply say try. If there is no error, no problem. So try with the response text equals st.write stream. It will write down the stream of the messages, generate response stream, and I will say messages equals st.session state messages, and I will say model equals model name, and I will say temperature, temp equals temperature, max tokens equals max tokens that we have defined here, max tokens. And I will finish that out or close that out. And now if something goes wrong, if that is the except scenario, I will say exception as the error message, st.error, then I will give the error message, could not connect to Ollama or run the selected model. And the next thing we would like to do here is st.info, and I will give some messages just to fix the problem with different solution approach. So fix checklist here, probably users might have missed out some of the checklist, and the first checklist I would like to give to the user is make sure that Ollama is installed and running. So that's the very first check user may want to do. And the second step user may want to do is run the pull command shown in the sidebar. That's another debugging step that user may want to take. And the next is going to be verify. Third step is going to be verify available models with the command that we had given earlier. Give Ollama and list, and then I'll just close that with the tick, \n. I will close that line. And the fourth, maybe the another way to debug the issue is try to run Llama Phi3 mini in terminal locally to confirm it works. Okay, so these are the steps that we are asking the user to take to debug the error or if there are any issues. st.exception, write down the exception and the response text. Of course, if there is any error, then nothing will be returned from the model if there is any issue with the model's execution. Now the next step is going to be saving assistant response to history. If response text, if there is a response text, I will say st.session_state.messages.append a role equals assistant and content, and that's going to be the response text. So that will be stored as part of the history of the conversation. Once we define all of those, I want to give option to clear the chat screen or clear the chat if the user would prefer to start fresh while cleaning all the chat on the screen. I will add a clear chat button there so that the user can clear the history conversation within the screen and they can start fresh. I will say column 1 and column 2 equals, I will get st.columns. I would give the column positions 1 and 3. We'll say with call 1, if st.button, if the button said clear chat, then I would say st.session_state.messages, and I would like to say reset the whole thing from the beginning, which gives option or gives that role equals system, content equals you are a helpful AI assistant. That means we are resetting the whole thing from the beginning, including the system message, and I will say st.rerun, and we will finish with that. So this is the entire end-to-end chatbot development without using any API keys or any authentication or any login, and that does not cost you anything to develop a powerful AI chatbot that you can talk and ask questions and deploy into production if you like to. So here, that's what was our objective. We said we are going to develop a Streamlit web application that can be executed and running into the web interface. So we have just completed the application development. Again, if you have not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do subscribe and hit that like button to this video, and please let me know in the comment what next you would like me to make the video on, what topic you are most interested about. Please let me know. I'll be very happy to hear about your interest, your excitement towards data science and AI solutions that we are going to build all together. So we have completed our chatbot development from scratch. Now it is time to run the application. We have saved our chatbot application. Let's save it, make sure that it is saved into the local machine. And here we will open the terminal. Our terminal is right here. So in our terminal, what I would like to say is simply very easy line of code, that is Streamlit run, and the file name. The file name is no API key chatbot.py. And I will hit enter to run the application. So if everything goes so well, now look at this here. Your application screen is ready and it is ready to respond to your question. Default here, Phi3 mini model and with a temperature of 0.30 and maximum token of 256. You can simply adjust these controls using the slider, and you can increase the number of tokens with addition of 64 or reduction of 64. And you want to choose different models, choose from here, Mistral model, and here you can adjust the temperature, you can adjust the maximum number of token that you want the model to respond with. And here, if you want to make sure that if it is installed or not, copy this and go back to your terminal and run and make sure that these models are already pulled and ready to be utilized. So that being said, here all the instructions and guidance are available here as part of the settings of the application. Now let's ask a simple question to the chatbot that we have built so far. Let's ask, can you please explain what is generative AI? Simply our topic here that we have accomplished. Let's hit run and let's wait for the model to execute and generate the response for us. Until then, thank you for watching until the last, and we have developed a large language model successfully into our local machine without even touching to any login, any credentials, simply downloading the model into our local machine, and we have developed a interactive chatbot, as you have absolutely seen right here how creatively the model had generated the response on your question. It says absolutely generative AI refers to typical type of artificial intelligence that can create new content such as images, text, or music by learning pattern from large amount of data and so on. It has given really nice output. Again, before relying completely into the large language model's response, please validate the response that large language model has given, because we have the least amount of system instructions to avoid any sort of misinformation. So it is important that you carefully take the validation into account before accepting any sort of responses from the chatbot. Now, one more question I'm going to ask here. Can you please explain what is linear regression in machine learning? So I'm asking one more question here and waiting for the response. Here, instant response has been generated by our LLM, including mathematical formula, and then here sum of squared errors and bunch of explanation. This looks magnificent, your conversational partner, without even paying a single penny. Just a little bit of storage on your computer. If you got a really nice computer that can handle at least 4 to 8 gigabyte of the data locally downloaded, then you have got your chatbot that you can use for your own purpose every single day to learn from it and utilize it without paying a single penny. So with that note, that's all from my side, and thank you so much for watching this video until the end. And if you have not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so. Share with others so that they can take advantage of this tutorial. Plus, please hit that like button. In the comment, let me know what would be the most exciting topic that you would like me to make the video on, and I can explain that in detail when I make the next video. And thank you for watching. Enjoy learning, enjoy the capabilities of large language model. Thank you.